sculling just a little bit, moving her point over.
Yeah, so explain what's going on there. The bow seat, oh, and wow, they are...
Quick start.
Quick starting. It looked like they had handed that oar back pretty quickly.
Lane 1, we already have a problem with a little bit of steering there. That's going to be a major correction. Lane 1, actually in Lane 2, though, that is Georgia Tech. Remember, we have an empty Lane 1 there. And I'm so sorry, Joe, for interrupting. I just had to point out that Georgia Tech coming back into the lane. Looks like no flags have been raised there. So the officials have allowed it and not issued any warning, even though it was still in the breakage zone. We are okay. So here we go. It looks like everyone's trying to get back in their lane and get straight again. Yeah,
so the women's club, Varsity 8 here, had a time trial yesterday in the morning. Rhode Island finished with the fastest time. That's why they're in Lane 3. They finished at 7 minutes and 39 seconds. Now, next to them in Lane 4 are the Black Knights, rather, from Army, West Point. They had a time of 7 minutes and 56 seconds. They finished out in front of Georgia Tech, who finished in front of Florida. However, as things are beginning to shake out here, Rhode Island definitely striking out into first place, but Florida from Lane 5 currently looks as though they might have second place. And again, Georgia Tech there in that yellow shell. Out in front here on your screen in the baby blues are the Rams from Rhode Island. You can see Army just kind of peeking onto your screen in Lane 4, and then off camera in Lane 5 is Florida. We think Florida's doing fairly well based on what we saw through that first 300-meter drone shot. And here's a nice shot of our leading boat from URI.
That's right. Coming through the 500 here, I just want to point out now that we have this beautiful side angle shot of the Rhode Island crew, we have very aggressive finishes here. So that's a very interesting stylistic choice, although right now it seems to be working quite well for them because they are in the lead, but very aggressive at the finish. You can see them kind of pulling that blade into their body with the hands here. If you're looking at our screen off to the side, looking at that port side, really going for that extra fling at the end of the stroke so they can fling that boat forward. Very, very aggressive hands, where some crews might take a different approach. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. Again, it just depends on what works for your crew. So other crews might take a different approach and be a little bit softer, maybe a little bit more finesse around the finish, or collect a little bit longer. Actually, like we're seeing in the Army crew right behind them. So look at the difference in these finishes. If you can see the screen right now, a little bit more finesse, a little bit more collection in the Army crew, and we're seeing it now. Look at this.
Really nice shot here of our second place Army boat as the bow ball of the Florida boat continues to kind of just creep closer to the left-hand side of our screen. Keep an eye, that bow ball hasn't moved on Army's side from the right-hand part of the screen as Florida's bow ball has begun to drop off. That means Army moving faster than the Florida boat at the moment. Looks like URI is maintaining their lead, however, so URI and Army starting to distance themselves from Lane 5 Florida there just a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. And actually from this angle, you can see this Rhode Island crew, how those very strong finishes actually affect the front end a little bit. So you see a little bit of bounce, just a teeny bit of bounce there in the back end as they aggressively bring that blade handle into their bodies there, getting a little bit of bounce at the finish and having to fling the hands away, which can, again, I'm not saying this is happening, but it can slow the boat down just a teeny bit on the front end because that speed has to go somewhere. So it's a very different approach. Again, it seems to be working incredibly well for them here because they are still maintaining their lead about bow to stern over that Army boat.
Yeah, they're getting their hands out really quick. You can see the violent feathers kind of just getting their hands out really quick. I wonder if it's almost a tactic to just try and get as many, get the stroke rate up a little bit higher without, you know, expanding too much energy on the recovery. Because sometimes what you'll see is when crews want to cheat in order to get the stroke rate up a little bit without using power, the first thing they're going to do is their hands. Because when you start rushing the legs up the slide a little bit, well, then you're using that energy that you should be using on the leg drive to try and get back up to the catch faster. So the hands are really kind of free energy out. It's kind of a cheating way to get your stroke rate up without losing too much energy. But as you said, it comes with the drawback of potentially checking the boat just a little bit.
Right. It's could potentially be a little bit of a price to pay for that. Again, seems to be working for them. We do want to try not to, and again, this is in general, I'm not saying any crew is doing this, but you do want to try to avoid pulling yourself up into the catch and rather shutting the body off on the catch and gliding into the front end. So really shutting everything down, letting the boat run underneath you during that time as you glide towards that catch again. So here we are watching Rhode Island, though, take charge of the catches and the finishes here. Again, like you said, very aggressively, very deliberately, but it is working for them because here they are, again, walking away just a little bit, again, inch by inch away from that Army boat.
Yeah, 500 meters left to go now for our leaders from Rhode Island, and you see they're alone on the screen at the moment with a solid chunk of open water between them and the boat from Army here in this women's club Varsity 8 final. After this event, we're going to be moving on to some of our men's and women's Varsity 8 petite and grand finals. So we'll have a series of 10-minute centers. We've been rocking off of 8-minute centers for most of the day, and for those who may not understand what I'm saying, we've been sending races off every 8 minutes, or trying to at least. For the rest of the day after this race, we'll have 10-minute intervals between each of the races. So we'll try and fill some of that time with a little bit of color where we can. We'll see if we can't get our correspondent, Nolan, out on the race course to give us any more interviews out there. We'll see what's available. And as Rhode Island makes their way through the final 100 meters here, a really impressive race from the Rams from URI.
And thank you for bearing with us here while we try to figure out some of our camera angles and what's coming up next, because we have so many exciting races on the course now and coming up next that we are trying to get ready for as we sit in anticipation, watching these crews come across the finish line very closely here. Rhode Island, again, in the blue, crossing the line first. Congratulations to the club. Varsity 8's grand final winners, Rhode Island there, followed very closely by Army.
And there's Florida crossing in third place there in this club, Varsity 8. We'll see Georgia Tech cross just a bit after. There they are.
That's right. Those Florida blades match those finish line buoys there as they go through that flashing orange there. And like Joe said, we will start going at 10-minute centers here so we can try to give you as much coverage as we can for the final 8 races.
Yeah, so next up on the race course will be the petite final of the men's.